Hi friends, my name is Host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. And today I'm going to be talking about a cognitive function matter that links to both some of a paper that I started reading and an experience I had with Rachel, my wife. So, in this paper, which is written by Money, he's articulating some Kantian dichotomies or distinctions that Kant makes in order to try to have a lexicon of terms that allows one to taxonomy consciousness, basically. And the Kantian distinctions include things like heart whole, various other ways of understanding the world. And that's where I'm going with this, is that understanders want to try to understand everything. And it can be almost hilariously unself-aware about what they're doing. So, like, Kant wrote this very thick book called The Critique of Pure Reason. What is in the contents of the book? Pure reason. There's nothing. It's like there's some failure to take seriously the frame issues here, right? Like, critiques are pure reason. So to critique pure reason with a critique is, real critiques are done in the fashion of argumentation, and accordingly are only validated by reason's standards. However, Kant was really what he was trying to do in that book was a number of things, but he was trying to establish that here are the boundaries of moral reasoning that can be established and defended by reason, even though it's critique of pure reason. His point is that it's not comprehensive, that reason itself is not comprehensive of morality, ethics, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if this was explicitly what Kant's point was, but this is the takeaway from it. So, reason is not comprehensive of human experience in any sense of the word. It doesn't explain things because, by and large, people are not rational actors, or are only somewhat rational actors. And it's kind of impossible to use reason to make choices in the world. Instead, we use reason to make claims and defend them and or negate claims. And this is a problem that I think a lot of people have, is they forget that half of life is experiential. It requires no symbology whatsoever. I don't need any language even to feel pain. If, let's say, I have food poisoning and my stomach is cramping, I don't need to understand why my stomach's cramping. I don't need to know that I have food poisoning. I just have to experience pain, and that's all there is to it. Of course, without any language, not only does that experience is entirely transient, in that if there's no language, there's no way to categorize or remember anything. There's no way to keep track of what distinctions are. We use language to do that kind of distinction making. But we don't have to have or use language. Maybe we have to have it. We don't have to use language to be conscious. And plenty of people pay attention in ways that are primarily experiential. When I am driving places like right now, even though I'm driving and my eyes are on the road and the cars in front of me, my mind is elsewhere talking about these matters. Because this is the field of attention upon which I'm most comfortable playing ball. Namely, I'm a communicative type. So, I'm not enjoying the nice day or the breeze or having some other kind of sensory engagement with the world. I'm engaging in talking instead and ideating out some thoughts and stuff. Because that's my intentional nature. So, accordingly, if Kant is going to use his kind of taxonomy of distinctions that people make as a attempted map of reason, I mean, really, he's attempting to map consciousness, but more like he's mapping the different ways in which people make distinctions, So, where am I going with this? Hold on. So, for communicative types like me, it seems almost inconceivable that one would go through life existing in any way that's not subject to or, subordinate to is the word I'm looking for. It's at least subordinate to language. For me, my experiences are had for the purpose of maybe telling stories about them or making videos about them, or they're just something I'm enduring because I got some task to do or something. But it's rare, only a small amount of kinds of experiences or things that I actually enjoy having. So, like, I enjoy having experiences with, there's a cop driving by, so I put my phone down. I enjoy having experiences like taking a shower, having sex, stuff that I can do at home, basically. But neither Rachel nor I wants to go to some amusement park or go get jostled. Even when I wanted to go to the casino the other day, we went down there. It was Sunday, it was Mother's Day, it was too crowded, and I just didn't like it at all. I was like, I'd drive 45 minutes just to be in this crowded place and lose a little bit of money and just leave again. And why bother with that? So, for communicative types like me, it's as I think Money said in the chat yesterday, we have a little bit of experience. It's like, but it's mostly all salad dressing, which is the meaning that people make about their experiences. Since I have communication as my number one and number two and number three function, as does Rachel, there's shit tons of meaning to be made about a very small amount of data, actual experiential data. Of course, experience only becomes data when it becomes an object of analysis. So it is the case that there's nothing that we can talk about or discuss or analyze, understand, know, or whatever in the communicative realm that's not subordinate to a language frame of some kind of symbolic frame. However, again, there are plenty of people who aren't engaging intentionally ontologically subordinate to language, right? Language is just something they use to express themselves or create outcomes. They're not using it to explain things, understand things, or make arguments. So, an example of how two intuition DOMs can have some strange experiences related to meaning and objects and stuff occurred the other day when I was watching TV and live streaming with Rachel. We were watching the A's game for a while. They showed Tom Hanks in the stand, and Rachel says, "Why does he have on A's stuff? I thought he was a Dodgers fan. Didn't the last time we see him at Dodger Stadium, he have Dodger stuff on? I said, they just showed him briefly on the screen. And I said, I don't think that was A's stuff, Rachel. He was wearing. I think it was just something kind of green. And she said, no, I think it's A's stuff. Rewind and let's see. So I rewound, and sure enough, he had an A's hat on. I'm like, you're right, he does have an A's hat on. I don't know why. Maybe he's more of an A's fan than a Dodgers fan, but he's more of a Dodgers fan than whatever team they were playing that last game we watched. But Rachel didn't like that. She felt as though I was questioning, like, that. Basically, I suspect, she didn't put it this way, but I suspect it would be well put this way, that she felt as though I wasn't letting her be herself in her wheelhouse, which is to say, I wasn't respecting her dominant function in terms of the status I was affording something. Now with the A's hat, nice simple factual question that could be answered by going back and looking at it. But in that instance, my eyes didn't see what her eyes saw. I guess that because I didn't expect to see him in an A's hat, I just kind of assumed it wasn't. But then later on, we were streaming and my friend Matt came and put a video up for us to check out. Him and some people playing live. And one of the people in the band was playing an accordion. Rachel said, what is that thing called? And she wasn't like pointing. What's that instrument called? That I guessed, you're probably talking about the accordion. You mean accordion? She said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm not sure that's an accordion. Because even though it looked like an accordion, my feeling on whether or not something is a mya, well, what is the criterion that I use to determine whether something's an accordion? It's got to have a keyboard on it, and it's got to go like this. You got to push air with your hands. If you don't have to do that, then it's just some other kind of keyboard, right? Now this one looked like an accordion. She had it over her shoulder, the lady who was playing it, like an accordion. But because I didn't have both of the criteria that I use to determine whether something's an accordion in evidence, namely I hadn't seen her squeeze the squeeze box, I preferred to reserve judgment as to whether it was actually an accordion. Then Matt, who was there and playing it with those people, said, yeah, that's an accordion. So I said, well, there you go, it's an accordion. Or again, Rachel felt like, why are you doubting what I know? Well, the reason is I'm not doubting what she knows. I'm doubting knowing in general. I am by default a deliberator with my tool function, and I am a rational or objective deliberator, logical deliberator. So accordingly, my nature and my inclination is to preserve a status of I don't know until I understand, rather than know, what to know. And then I'm willing to affirm it, because I know it in that regard in my SI. Like, I've learned why and how, yeah. So in that instance, it would have been a very simple thing. If in my SI, if I had seen her squeezing it, then I would have made the determination it's definitely an accordion, and I wouldn't have said, well, we can't commit to it being an accordion yet, you know. But when Matt said it's an accordion, that was good enough evidence for me, because his SI, he was there. He knows whether it's an accordion or not. But Rachel and I weren't there, we were just seeing the video. So now let's talk about what it means to deliberate is to defer knowing until you understand. What it means to know is to know without necessarily understanding. And for practical purposes, generally a person doesn't need to understand very well. And there are plenty of instances, probably a majority of instances, in which the deliberation approach is ill-advised or ill-matched. So, regarding the A's hat, well, I don't know. My eyes just didn't see what her eyes saw because I'm an SI type probably, so I had expectations that were influencing what I was seeing and how I was interpreting it. Because I'd seen them before, presumably that might have something to do with why I didn't see what she saw there. But in the second instance, again, that one is more of a TI thing than an SI thing. It didn't meet both my criteria for certainty that it was an accordion, so accordingly, its status is unresolved until I have something to determine that it is an accordion, like say Matt's testimony, which was adequate for me. Rachel, knowing that it was an accordion, first of all, she knew it was an accordion, but she couldn't remember what accordions were called. I also knew it was an accordion, but I don't, to me, no, I'm not a knower, so that's not reason to affirm something. Knowing that it's an accordion, the fact that I know it's an accordion is not a reason to claim it's an accordion, because I can't defend that. It's just what I know it is. Well, it looks like an accordion, you know. Like, how do you tell if something's a piano or a keyboard? Well, if it's a piano, it has hammers that hit strings. And if it's a keyboard, then it's got some sort of electronic sound equivalent, but not actual equivalent, because there's no hammers. So, anyhow, Rachel may have felt a little annoyed that I was doubting her knowing, but in reality, I wasn't doubting her knowing, I was doubting my own knowing. In the second instance, with the A's hat, I guess I was doubting her knowing, I guess, but I would have been wise to not doubt her knowing, because even though it seemed unlikely that Tom Hanks would be wearing an A's hat to a Dodgers game, he in fact was, and her knowing beat me, that is my knowing in that instance, because her NI was paying attention to what actually was. My SI was still stuck in the past. In the second instance, with the accordion, well, there's just zero reason for me to logically or practically or pragmatically or whatever, for me to be that persnickety about willingness to declare something an accordion when I've already told Rachel what the name of the instrument is. But I don't want, it's just proactive defense against being wrong, right? Unless I can explain why I shouldn't be making claims about it being an accordion, because somebody might say, Eric, how do you know it's an accordion? Can you really support that claim? And then I'd be like, oh, I can only support the claim that it looks like an accordion. Granted, obviously, nobody's ever going to challenge my claim that it's an accordion in that fashion, especially since it did in fact look like an accordion. Regardless, I can understand how it's frustrating if you feel as though your dominant function is being thwarted by your partner. That's definitely not what I intended to do there. I was really just having my own intentionally configured relationship with knowledge and understanding that's distinct from Rachel's, and she can't SI for me. I mean, I can't SI for her, and she can't really NI for me. We each have our own attentional scopes and responsibilities. Anyway, I love you all. Thanks for watching, and see you later.